Honestly, I was not expecting to like this game so much, but it's not without its flaws. Like me. Hello, everyone. MTK here, and today we are going to dive into another Crab's Treasure. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the silly. I really didn't know what to think about this game when I first saw it. Most Souls-like games are dark and mysterious and full of jump scares, terrifying foes, and, good old blood and gore.
God loves violence.
This one is not. Quite the opposite, actually. It has a very cartoony art style and a bunch of silly puns and jokes. But the question is, does that formula work as a Souls-like game? Well, I'm glad you asked. So let's jump in and talk about what this game does well and what it leaves wanting. But before we do that, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel to catch more reviews, and tune into my weekly live streams. Also, make sure you stick around to the end of the video where I will give the game a score and let you know if I believe it's worth your hard-earned souls. Now, with that being said, we are going to cover four main categories, and those are visuals, combat, gameplay, and story. So, let's get to it. There is not a lot to talk about when it comes to visuals here, mainly because it has one of those styles that really will just appeal to some and to others it won't. You either like it or you don't. It's not one of those games where you will stand at the edge of a cliff or look up at a mountain in a state of just absolute awe. The art style does fit perfectly with the atmosphere and direction they are trying to go. Personally, I really like the style and the feel of the game. I have to say, it's kind of refreshing to play a Souls-like that is bright and colorful. I know for some this probably kills the vibe, but for me, it's just nice to have something a little different in the genre to jump into. Music-wise, I think this is one of the strengths of Another Crab's Treasure, especially during the boss fights. The blend of silly seriousness in the music is just fun, and it somehow finds a way to immerse you into the game while still keeping it lighthearted. I'm usually not a big music guy, but the music in this game really caught my ear. The combat has a slower, Dark Souls-esque kind of pace to it. It does have a parry and riposte skill, although you do have to unlock them, which kind of sucks. But the parry is much more of a every now and then thing as opposed to something like Sekiro where you like parry everything. It has a poise system as well. They call it balance, where basically after enough consecutive attacks, you will fill the enemy's balance meter, and at that point, you can hit them with a charge attack to knock them off balance, leaving them vulnerable to increased damage. While this does a fairly good job of encouraging you to stay aggressive, I do wish they would have given you some kind of like death blow or visceral once the balance meter was full to make it more rewarding to try to achieve that. I mean, who doesn't love an awesome death blow animation anyway?
God damn it, he's right.
However, the best part of the game's combat is the shell system. In this game, your crab's shell is its armor, and you find them lying all over the ocean floor, everything from a soda can to a coconut shell. You hide in your shell to block, and as you block, your shell takes the damage instead of your health bar. After taking enough damage, though, your shell will break, leaving you only with the ability to dodge. Different shells have different strengths and weaknesses, as well as special abilities. The weight of your shell is also a big factor because the heavier the shell, the slower your dodges are. It's a ton of fun finding new shells, testing their abilities, and finding which one works best for your playstyle. Although the shells are awesome, I was disappointed that they chose to give you just one weapon to upgrade instead of carrying over the same system they have for the shells and giving you multiple different weapons to find, and then you can upgrade those. But for some reason, that's not the direction they decided to go. Overall, I would say the combat is solid as long as you don't mind a slower pace. But for me, I really enjoyed it. The overall gameplay in Another Crab's Treasure, I would say, is pretty well done. The traversal is fairly smooth. The level design is not going to blow you away, but it's solid. There aren't a ton of enemy types, but I think there's enough. This game is what I would call a semi open world, so there is a fair amount of exploration to do and items to find, but it has a refreshing linear feel to it, which in today's landscape of endless open world games, it's kind of a nice change of scenery. One thing that I think was kind of strange in a way is that they chose to do a map, but only kind of do a map. They kind of tried to do some kind of weird happy medium thing between having a map and not having a map. So when you open your map, you can see where you are and a small portion of the world around you, but you cannot scroll around the map to see where you need to go, even if you have already discovered those areas. I felt this just made the map feel annoying. Either give me a fully functioning map or just don't give me a map at all. As for performance, though, I had no issues at all. Now, I'm on console, so I can't speak to the PC performance, but everything was as it should be on console. So, aside from the map, I would say the gameplay is well done and very enjoyable. So, the story is not going to grab you in any kind of special way. It's not going to be mysterious or deep like the Dark Souls games are, but it is charming and funny. You play as a hermit crab named Krill who gets into a little trouble with the ocean's version of the IRS, and you lose your shell due to an outstanding tax debt. So you embark on a crazy journey to retrieve your shell and discover an infection has begun to ravage the ocean floor, turning friendly sea creatures into murderous fiends. It's a cool story with plenty of humor and interesting characters. I would say that it delivers on what you should expect from a game like this. I wouldn't call it top notch or anything like that, but I also don't hate it. I really like the story, and I think it's worth a playthrough. But if you're expecting a Ghost of Tsushima or an Elden Ring kind of depth or cinematic, that's not what you're going to find here. But it's not really what you should expect either. So overall, I would say that the story is a good one. So where does this game stack up? Well, here's the deal. Although I really enjoyed it, and I do not regret buying it at all, I don't think it's one that is for everyone necessarily. So for that reason, I'm going to say you should consider giving it a try. It's fun, charming, and funny, but for a more hardcore Souls fan, it may not scratch the itch quite like you want. But as for me, I love it.
Do it now. Smash like.